been getting lied to and manipulated by fish stores and you don't even know it? I get it. You're probably saying, no, I'm not. I know exactly what I'm doing. There's no way possible that fish stores could be manipulating me and lying to me without me knowing it. But it's so subtle that you wouldn't even be able to tell it's happening. So you go to your local fish store, big stores, not mostly mom and pop, big stores. You walk over, you're looking for a new betta fish, or you just happen to walk by the betta fish section. Well, what do you notice? They're still in those tiny little cups. But why? Why put them in those tiny little cups when by now we all know they leave at least 5-gallon fish tank? Well, simple answer is marketing and space purposes. If people keep seeing online that betta fish live in puddles and mud pits over in their native countries, they're not going to realize that they need those bigger tanks. And for space reasons, they're going to put them in little cups. And the other myth that they're aggressive. People aren't going to want their fish with other fish if they see them isolated and not with other fish in tanks. That's why I love stores that have their betta fish in the regular fish tanks with other fish. Then we have started on fish tank crowding though, because that's a whole nother story. Short ad break. Thank you to Boost Plant for being a sponsor of this channel. Please check out their link in the pinned comment and the description below if you're looking for affordable plants of all kinds. They're a wonderful distributor of plants. I've gotten plants from them or from other people. They all died on me. Make sure you check them out. They're wonderful. They're great people and their customer service is top notch as well. They have boost, they have stem plants, they have anubias. They have everything you could possibly want. They even do terrestrial plants for those of you that are into more of the whole terrarium thing. They've got livestock now. They have freshwater shrimp, snails, even some fish along with food. And they have hardscaping things as well. Just make sure you check them out. They've got a bunch of cool stuff on there. Use my link in the description. And thank you very much for supporting Boost Plant. And thank you, Boost Plant, for supporting me. Now, if you haven't guessed by now, this is going to be talking about all the ways that fish stores trick you into not treating your betta fish with the proper care that they need. If you want more in that and specifics, whole other video linked here. What else do you notice when you walk into a fish store? Do you see heaters in those little cups? Well, no, you couldn't possibly, because those little cups would melt and then there'd be water everywhere. Betta fish, they need heaters. They like water that's in the mid to upper 70s. Like 78's like the sweet spot for them, even not a little higher. So unless a fish store is heating its storage to 80 degrees, which they're not, because the hotter a store or the hotter a space, the faster you're gonna get out of there. And that's not what they want. They want you standing there and mingling and looking longer. So they're gonna keep their stores colder. Probably in the low 70s to upper 60s. Betta fish don't like that. But if people don't see that there's a heater in a tank or a filter in a tank, they're not gonna think they need one. Because when you see those big tanks where they've got all the other community fish and all the other fish that aren't community fish, you see a heater, you see something. You see these things in the tanks. So you know somewhere in the back of your mind that they need this. So psychologically, little hints are being dropped at people and you, even if you don't realize it, that betta fish don't need certain things, which is flat out false. And at this point into the fish hobby, it just needs to be gone. Because these little things, which happens all the time in marketing and business, they're just so subtle in the background. You don't really notice it, but it slowly plants these little seeds in your head that, oh, this is how it should be. Look at all the crazy Mandela effects where people 100% knew something was the way it was, but then things have been scrubbed from the internet or it's completely different now and people just say, you're crazy, it was never like that. Same kind of psychological mentality here, that we know these things are wrong, but we see it done over and over again. Even in some smaller shops, they still put them in the cups or the little containers because it's just easier for them to house them. Because really, while they're not super aggressive and can be kept with other fish, which is another totally false myth that they can't be kept with other fish because they're Siamese fighting fish and they are so aggressive they will kill anything. Well, we know that to be a lie too at this point, because how many people have actually put them with other fish and they've been fine? Heck, I've had corridors that are jerks and killed another fish, and those are supposed to be peaceful community fish. So that's beside the point though. When we see these things happen, we think in the back of our minds, when we go to get the fish, we might forget, oh yeah, they do need a heater, or yeah, I probably should have some kind of filtration in this tank, because these fish need healthy water. They need to be able to live. They also can't just survive on those stupid plants you put in your pots. They actually need food. Betta fish are carnivorous or insectivores. They feed on small crustaceans and small bugs that are in the water. So you need to actually feed them a good diet of a high protein. They're not even lazy like people think. They only act lazy because you keep them in water that's too cold. If you warm the water up and they've got some other things to interact with, like a mirror if it's by itself, or a floating log, or even some snails or other things, you will see your betta fish come to life. They're not lazy. You just keep them in water that's too cold, or you don't have anything to stimulate them. Even something as simple as taking your camera on your phone and just holding it up to your tank, they're gonna like that. Oh, even something as simple as holding your phone up to the tank, they're gonna like that because they can see the reflection and they think they can fight and they'll flare out. It's a really cool interaction. Just don't do it too often, but it is a way of Xing your fish. Female bettas are less aggressive than males, and they can be kept in groups, but you have to know what you're doing. This isn't as well seen in box stores because a lot of box stores don't sell the females, but some smaller stores or even other channels, I've done it myself, have videos of all these female bettas in giant tanks. You'll see this a lot more at conventions and shows. They'll put like hundreds of females in like a 100-gallon tank. That's okay short term, but long term wise, it's not a viable option because eventually they're gonna get pissed off at each other and they're going to hurt each other. So female betta fish, whole nother subject, whole nother video. Just be mindful and do your research if you're going to do that and keep a sorority of fish. Be careful. They live a lot longer than 3 to 5 years. The only reason the fish we get from the pet store live 3 to 5 years is because we don't know how old they are when they got them, and they're kept in terrible conditions because they shouldn't be in cups. These fish need to be in actual tanks, but there's not enough space to house 100 betta fish in a fish store. That's the problem. So the actual life expectancy of these fish is upwards of 8 years. If you know a good breeder and you get these fish as babies and you raise them properly, you can have these fish for as long as some dogs. So 3 to 5 years is the low end just because we don't know how old they are. We got them from the fish store. It's a whole one of those outlier things that a fish could be 5 when you get it. So of course it's only gonna live another 3 years, but they live a lot longer in the wild. That one's not as easily manipulated to us, but it's still a thing that's perpetuated that, oh, they have short lifespans. Oh, you need a new one every 18 months to 3 years. That's another lie. They are easy to take care of, and your local fish store might say, oh, you know, just put them in the tank and do this and that. But you do still have to do maintenance on the tanks. You can't just leave them and forget them. They do still require, you know, balanced diet, stable environment. Don't be fluctuating the temperature constantly. Don't be throwing a bunch of cold water in there and making them all screwy. Need them to have a stable environment, just like you would for any other fish you keep. Betta fish and some other fish are like dogs. You come up to the tank, they notice you, you flipped a little lid to give them food, they're gonna be right there. This is another one that's very hard to notice, but again, it could just be information that you're given by your pet store. You might have heard from your local fish store that, oh, you know, my fish had these bubbles, what is that? They're gonna tell you, no, that means your betta fish is really happy. That's a lie. It doesn't mean they're happy. Bubble nests are the way that betta fish reproduce. So if a male builds a bubble nest, that means it's ready to, you know, have babies with a lady friend. That's all the bubble nest is. It has nothing to do with being happy. It could have some indication that you created a stable enough environment where the fish thinks it's safe enough to have offspring, but it has nothing to do with happiness levels. This all boils down to, before you get any fish, even if you're at the pet store and you're like, oh my god, this is a crazy looking fish, I must have it, because I've done that before. Do your research. Do a quick Google search. We literally all have the collective knowledge of the human race on our phones. Just Google. You go to the store, Google something. The amount of fish care videos you can find or species profiles you can find, or even just Google's AI at this point, it's going to debunk a lot of things the fish store might tell you. Like even those stupid little cards they have at every Petco or every PetSmart that says, oh, you know, peaceful, size, blah, blah, blah. Double check those too. Because a lot of things that they will label as community fish really shouldn't be community fish. And some things they label as semi-aggressive and should be put with other semi-aggressive fish is wrong too. They'll put things on the semi-aggressive list that to me are perfectly peaceful and that I throw into community tanks all the time. So bottom line, do your research. I'll put those videos to the other two betta sorority and betta playlist in the description too. Amazon shop that has a bunch of links to products I've used in the past and that I've talked about on the channel and that I highly recommend for fish keepers just getting into the hobby or even veterans that are just looking for some things to test out.